tears with us when things didn't go well.
This time, I'd like to say thanks to the people at Iowa Methodist and to remind everybody that I'm still here, better than ever. And so is the Cancer Center at Iowa Methodist.
The new John Stoddard Cancer Center at Iowa Methodist. We're in this fight together.
This is CNN.
Is the worst of the violence over in Los Angeles and around the country? Could it have been prevented? And what can be done to make sure the cities don't erupt in racial violence again? Welcome to Newsmaker Saturday. In Washington, I'm Carl Rochelle, sitting in for Charles Bierbauer. Those questions for Jack Kemp, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Mayor Maynard Jackson of Atlanta, and Lee Brown, New York City's Police Commissioner.
This is Newsmaker Saturday with Charles Bierbauer.
By Saturday morning, some semblance of calm had descended on Los Angeles after almost continuous violence that began Wednesday following the verdict in the Rodney King beating case. Some of the violence had already spread to other cities, including Atlanta and New York. In an effort to end the fighting, Rodney King made a rare appearance before cameras to plead for peace on the streets.
People, I just want to say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along? Can we stop making it horrible for the older people and the kids?
After a meeting with black leaders Friday morning at the White House, President Bush made a televised speech announcing that he had federalized the California National Guard and sent in Army and Marine troops to stand by if needed. And the president called for efforts to make sure such incidents do not happen again.
After peace is restored to Los Angeles, we must then turn again to the underlying causes of such tragic events. We must keep on working to create a climate of understanding and tolerance, a climate that refuses to accept racism, bigotry, anti-Semitism, and hate of any kind, anytime, anywhere.
After violence erupted in the Watts section of Los Angeles and in dozens of other cities in the late 1960s, billions of dollars in aid were poured into the cities in an effort to bring equity to all citizens and to head off future violence in the cities. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. First question to you, Mr. Secretary. The Republicans have controlled the White House for 20 out of the last 24 years. Why haven't things improved in the cities?
Well, I guess I could sit here and make the same point about the U.S. Congress being held in the hands of the Democratic Party, but if all we get out of this is a debate between the left and the right, or more government spending and redistribution of wealth on one hand, and those who want to do nothing but send the federal troops and the Army into Los Angeles, I don't believe there's enough federal troops, there's not enough police in the country to solve the problem of restoring peace and harmony if we can't learn, A, to get together and work out our problems and use this cry for help. I mean, you can defend respect for the law, but once we restore respect for the law, we've got to recognize that people are growing up in the inner cities of America all too often without any access to opportunity, without ever holding a job, spending most of their adult life on welfare, never having a chance to own any property, and it's a basic universal fact that where people are without access to hope, where they're without any chance of ownership of anything in their whole life, if they just have the shirt on their back, it undermines respect for the law. It undermines respect for property, both your neighbor as well as the community. And I really do believe that we need to come together, Democrat, Republican, black, white, mayors such as Jackson of Atlanta and Bradley. Bradley said the first thing to me when I called him on Friday, and I'm delighted to talk with your show with Maynard Jackson. I won't filibuster, but I do need to make this point. The first thing Mayor Bradley said to me was, now maybe Congress will pass the enterprise zone bill. Now maybe we can begin to green line the inner city and flood it with capital and flood it with new jobs there and ownership of property. That seems to me to be what I hear coming out of this tragic situation.
Mayor Jackson, do you believe it's a problem with the Congress?
Well, I think that the speed of the boss is the speed of the crew. Good boss, good crew, and a bad boss, bad crew. Without question, I know President Bush, and on a personal level, he's a very fine, decent person. I believe that he and his predecessor, President Reagan, have failed to exercise a level of leadership necessary to stop racial and economic oppression in the country. Now, we must condemn unqualifiedly and unconditionally any lawlessness. You cannot protest wrong and injustice by engaging in wrong and injustice, and that's why in Atlanta we're not tolerating any lawlessness. We've clamped down hard because we don't have a civil rights movement march. We've got some people in Group B who are not respecting the law, and some in Group A, the majority, 98% of the students, are respecting the law. But if we have mob rule, we're not going to tolerate that, and that's why we've clamped down hard. We will respect all constitutional rights. We have had no shootings. The parents of America who have their kids in school here need to be reassured. We're going to put another police precinct working with the campus security and so forth in the area. But the main thing we have to have is leadership from the very top that is sincere.
Mayor Jackson,
it is wrong. Let me make this point if I can. We've got to have respect for the law in the streets. No looting, no violence, no burning, and no shooting and all. None of that can occur. None of it. We've also got to have respect for the law everywhere, which means, therefore, that racial and economic oppression also must stop. And I believe that if we spend a whole lot of time talking about was it the president, was it the Congress, we really are not going to get to the main issue. The main issue is what is the plan? And that's why I'm proposing a 5-point plan for the future that has a number of subdivisions. Number one, a safer America. I believe we've got to stop what I call the dope riot that is going on every day in America. Not just the riots in L.A. and cities all across the country now, but the dope
Mr. Mayor, get
riot.
through them quickly, if you would. I'd like to get Secretary Kemp in here because I'd like to ask him about the leadership question, too.
Well, in that case, here will be my 5-point plan for the future. Number one, a safer America. Number two, a better housed America. Number three, a more economically developed America. Number four, a better managed America. And number five, a better educated America. And if we do that in a sincere way, we will turn this nation around, and we can do it.
Secretary Kemp, do you think he'll have any more luck getting his points through than you've had getting yours through the White House?
I don't think there's any disagreement between Jackson and Kemp. Or the Conference of Black Mayors and Jack Kemp or President Bush.
Can you get President Bush in there leading the way on this?
Look, it's a mistake to turn this into bashing of Congress or bashing the president or bashing the mayors or bashing each other or left or right. There are elitists on the left who want to just spend more money like we did in $2.6 trillion of welfare spending since 1968. There are those on the right who don't want to do anything. You know, I pick myself up by my boots, why can't they? Hey, people don't have boots. They don't even have straps. So I agree with Jackson. We need an all-out war against crime and drugs. We need an all-out war against poverty and despair. But it's not enough to say that you want to create economic development and economic justice if we can't get our friends in the Congress, bless their hearts, to pass a bill that's been on their desk for 12 years that would green line the inner city, eliminate the capital gain tax on any man or woman that invests in downtown Atlanta or in the areas of LA that are leaving people without any jobs. We can talk until the cows come home, but there is legislation right now on the desk of every member of Congress. And I'm saying we have to act at the White House level, the president level, the administration level. The president has called for a grand jury to be empowered to investigate the violation of civil rights.
That, by the way, is a great thing. That's a great thing that has happened. And by the way, could I say that Jack Kemp is a great Secretary of HUD, but that the president's bill is not adequate?
It may not be adequate, but it hasn't passed in 12 years, Maynard Jackson. You've talked to me, as I'm sure Lee Brown will talk about in a few minutes from New York City, the fact that folks from New York and Atlanta to East LA and to South Central, I grew up in Los Angeles, went to school in Los Angeles. I am convinced that we've got to do something to inject incentives into our inner cities to create jobs.
But if the
and if
president
Maynard
was
Jackson has a better plan, tell him to send it to Kemp right away.
Secretary, if the president was out leading the way, if
the president has asked the Congress, with all due respect, he may not say it the way Kemp says it or the way Maynard Jackson says it, but he's begged the Congress for 3 years to pass a bill that would put some incentive back into the inner city. B, he's asked the Congress to help him do what Maynard Jackson's trying to do in Atlanta, and that is to give people in public housing a chance to manage, control, and ultimately own their own homes. He's asked to reform the welfare system to give people a chance to work their way off of welfare without being punished, and that's the way the system works.
Mayor Jackson, you satisfied with the leadership you're getting out of Washington?
Well, let me ask you this. I really don't want to see this turn into kind of a partisan election year thing. I would much rather talk about what can be done and the fact that it can happen. I feel that we're not getting adequate leadership out of Washington. I won't be even more specific than that, but I will tell you that I've been disappointed in the leadership that has been coming out of the White House clearly since 1981. I'm a before and after mayor. I'm before Reagan, 8 years. Then I came back into office in January of 1990. When I left office, no AIDS, no homelessness as a national issue, no crack cocaine, and the Army Corps of Engineers was not trying to manage our water. Now I'm here. When I was mayor before, we had $49 million a year discretionary federal funding. Now we have 9. 80% of the federal money in housing has been cut out since I was mayor the first time. And we're wondering what happened to homelessness. Here's what I tell you. I have a plan. I don't know if we have time to hear it here, but I can get as specific as you want to get.
Mr. Mayor, let me hold you off a second. We need to take a break now. We'll come back and talk about the problem in your city. We'll also talk with Lee Brown, the Commissioner of Police in New York, after we take this break. Stay with us.
Stronger than most, this umbrella. Those who carry the travelers for their insurance needs carry a solid 128-year tradition of excellence, chosen by 50% of the Fortune 500, backed by $53 billion in assets. Open in case you want strength and experience the traveler's way. You're better off under the umbrella.
It's happening now. You're going to feel great all morning. Grape Nuts, try it for a week.
I've been eating grape nuts and I feel great.
Try Grape Nuts, the fat-free natural energy source. See how good you feel.
Breakfast with Grape Nuts is a great way to help keep us all going. And you know, it's really delicious.
Try it.
I like that it's fat-free and I love the taste.
Try it.
It helps keep me going all morning. Does your cereal do that?
Post Grape Nut cereal, try it for a week.
This is the week to do it.
An interesting thing is happening to driving enthusiasts. They're multiplying, and that's a blessed event for the Saab 9000 Turbo, which not only does 0 to 60 faster than a BMW 535i, but has one of the roomiest interiors of any imported sedan. The Saab 9000 Turbo, the sports sedan you grow into, not out of.
When important people have something to say, they say it on CNN.
For the fatheads at General Motors.
Get in touch with the people shaping the news. Watch Newsmaker Sunday with Frank Sesno. Sundays on CNN.
Welcome back to Newsmaker Saturday. Commissioner Brown, who's with us in our New York studios, you've worked in both Texas, you've worked in Atlanta, you're in New York now. Have things changed over the years? Are things better? Is some of this money being put into the situation worked? Has it helped? Are things different?
We see some very serious problems throughout America. We end up in law enforcement dealing with those failures of the other social institutions. I would hope, and I think I speak for most people involved in law enforcement, that we develop a national domestic agenda that addresses those issues that drive the agenda of almost every major police agency in America. And those issues would center around things like unemployment and poverty, the collapse of our family, the failure of our elementary and secondary school education. We also be very much concerned when we're told by the Federal Centers for Disease Control that the contributing factors to the high increase in homicides, particularly among African-American males, would be the ready accessibility of handguns.
What do you think is a
discrimination.
serious problem down on the street? We all understand this broad panoply of problems that face it, but what really gets down to who determines or what determines whether there is violence in the streets, and what's being done about that?
We can't accept violence under any circumstances, but my point that I want to make is that if we're going to be successful in dealing with the issue of violence and crime in America, we have to address those causes of those problems. Those are the issues that I was talking about. When we look at, just for example, we're told by the Federal Reserve and the Internal Revenue Service that 1% of our population has more wealth than 90% of the rest of us. Stated another way, 1% of the population is richer than almost all of America. And to us, that's a police problem in the making. If we don't address that as an issue, we'll find ourselves in a position where the police are the border guards between
Mr. Secretary, is that the problem?
And the poor.
That is a fascinating point. It really is, and I appreciate Lee Brown. It's interesting that the police chief of New York City brings out the point that this country has a tax system that is locking in the wealth of our nation in the hands of those who have it, so to speak. Now, the rich get richer in almost any society. The problem is not that the rich are going to get richer, but the problem is how to make poor people richer. And right now, I would make a case that our welfare laws and our tax laws prevent poor people, particularly black Americans. Now, I want to say something to people who are Anglo-Saxon watching this, because they're listening to a law and order Republican say it, a member of Bush's cabinet. 12% of the population is black. They own less than 0.5% of the total wealth of America. The police chief is correct in the sense that our system has locked in the reward basically for people who have already made it, and it's preventing people who don't have anything but the shirt on their back from getting access to property and the seed corn and the capital and the jobs and the ownership of homes and businesses.
The young black man who's sitting out there, the one who's in the streets of Los Angeles is saying, I hear you.
There's 50% unemployment among those black teenagers. They got to get a job.
What are you going to do about it?
Well, I would eliminate, and as would President Bush, and would his budget, eliminate the tax on the gain from an investment in an inner city enterprise zone for anyone that puts their business in the enterprise and hires people off the streets. A. B.
I think the Secretary's on the right track when he talks about empowering the people.
Could I just finish the point, Lee?
Sure, and I'll come back to it.
I'm sorry. Number two, anybody that invests in that enterprise ought to be able to write off his or her investment. That's Charlie Rangel from Harlem's amendment. Anybody that takes a job and comes off welfare and unemployment, that takes a job and wants to work their way off of welfare, today is punished. The reward for being unemployed is higher than the reward for going to work. We need to make a ladder of opportunity that digs deep enough into ghettos and barrios and inner city pockets of poverty that will create the jobs, create the ownership of assets, give people something other than just the shirt off their back. When people don't own anything, when people don't even own their own job or their own home, they don't have a stake in the neighborhood, and it undermines the respect for law in order and makes it tougher for the police.
Mr. Commissioner, is that the answer?
The point I wanted to make, I think the Secretary is certainly on the right track when he talks about empowering people by home ownership, people in public housing. That's similar to what we're trying to do here in New York in policing. We are making a fundamental change in how we deliver police services in our city using what we call community policing. This means empowering the people as a partnership to work with us in preventing crime and solving the problems that exist that impact the quality of life in the neighborhood. We're empowering the people also in a different way. And we think that will make a difference. If we look at what happens here in New York City as a result of what's happening throughout the nation, as a result of Rodney King, I'm very thankful that some of the work we did up front has resulted in our not having the extent of the problem that occurred other places. The mayor's been out doing something since he's been in office. We've been out working with the people in our city. And as a result, yesterday we had hundreds of young people march, and I'm very proud of them because they marched peacefully, exercised their efforts. All of that is to say that I think we have to work with the people in bringing them together to solve the problems that have a negative impact on the quality of life in our cities.
Mr. Commissioner, we'll talk about the effect of the family structure on the problem when we come back in just a moment. Stay with us.
even when it seems like everything in your house is wrinkled. Now there's an easy way to iron it all. The Magic Press from Singer. It's portable, easy to use, and gives you professional-looking results while saving time and money. And since the Singer Magic Press cuts ironing time in half, now you'll have time to iron everything that's wrinkled. The Magic Press in dry and steam, the latest wrinkle in ironing from Singer.
Good morning, front desk.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me. We've been waiting. Miss, you've got to check out. Check out. I would say before you come through 12:14.
I'm sorry, just one more moment.
How long is this going to take?
At Marriott, our priority is you. And with Express Checkout, you never have to wait online. Service, the ultimate luxury at Marriott.
Listen to this. I make long-distance calls from payphones all the time. If I don't hear AT&T, I hang up. I dial 10-ATT-0, then I hear bong, AT&T, and I know who I'm dealing with.
When you make a long-distance call and you don't hear AT&T after the... Hang up, dial 10-ATT-0, then the area code and number. You get the AT&T service you want and prices you expect.
You just gotta listen.
AT&T.
It seems to me everybody's been using our pickup window to get Wendy's new salads, because we make them fresh every day. Like our taco salad, deluxe garden salad, and our new grilled chicken salad. But you can get them inside, too.
It's Dave's Salad Days at Wendy's, inside and out.
Your dentist told you about plaque, but you didn't listen. You need the new Braun Oral-B Plaque Remover. It removes plaque just like your dentist wants you to.
That shelf should hold now, Doc.
The Braun Oral-B Plaque Remover.
The breakup of the nuclear family is often cited as one of the causes for some of the violence we have. Mayor Jackson, I'd like to ask you, is that correct? Is that the problem?
That's a part of the problem. The main problems we're having are racial and economic oppression. We're also having people...
Are they not linked?
Pardon?
Are they not linked? The breakup of the urban family, is that not linked with the problems with racism?
I think they are linked. I think if you look at 3.5 centuries of oppression, look at the only slavery in the history of humankind that said the slave was not human, sell father to him, sell mother to him, sell the child to somebody else, and then wonder what happened to the black family. Yeah, they're linked. But what I want to focus on is what to do about it. During the breaks, we're seeing filming of what's happening in the streets. That must be condemned emphatically and without question. Here in Atlanta, by the way, we don't have families erupting, but we do have people who are a part of a new generation that did not know King, are not philosophically committed to nonviolence. This is the small group. 98% of these students are in their dormitory studying for examinations. But it's the 2% and others. Some of them are thugs and some are dope.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask Commissioner...
out there in the streets. Just bear with me for a second if I can.
Okay, well, we don't have much time, and I'd like to ask Commissioner Brown, who brought up
the breakup of the family clearly is one of the problems, and what we are facing is the absence of adequate public policy that will address that problem.
Well,
Who sets public policy? Elected officials only in America set, not just influence, but set public policy.
Okay.
And that's why we need to do something about it. If we want to
Mr. Mayor,
get
I've got to go to New York right now and get a response from Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Brown, you brought up the nuclear family. How significant is that?
I think it's very important, but it's not just the only issue. When I was a cop on the street back in the 60s, we did not have crack cocaine. We did not have the proliferation of handguns. We did not have the homeless. We did not have all these problems, the drug epidemic that we have right now. So we have to address all of those issues on a very aggressive basis in order to make a difference.
Secretary Kemp, you have the last word.
A family to stay together or to even form needs some property, needs a job, needs a good education. There should be more educational choice. There should be more job creation. There should be some radical incentives for those families to stay together. Our welfare system today in America subsidizes not only the breakup of the family, but the elimination of the family, and we're putting those children on the streets without jobs, without education, and without a chance to even know what a normal family is all about. We've got to radically alter welfare. We've got to create incentives for economic development and ownership of housing and entrepreneurship.
The Rebuild America Coalition has
Mayor
a plan
Jackson
for
in
jobs in
Atlanta,
America.
thank you for being with us, and Commissioner Brown in New York, thank you for being with us today. Later tonight, on both sides with Jesse Jackson, Jesse's guests, presidential candidates Jerry Brown and Pat Buchanan. on their reaction to the King verdict, the violence, and the political fallout. That's live tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern here on CNN. And tomorrow, Newsmaker Sunday with Frank Sesno, New York Governor Mario Cuomo's perspective on all of this. He's the only guest. Newsmaker Sunday, tomorrow morning, 10:30 Eastern. For Newsmaker Saturday, I'm Carl Rochelle in Washington. Good day.
For a transcript of Newsmaker Saturday with Charles Bierbauer, send $4 to Newsmaker Saturday Transcripts, Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. Or call 1-303-831-9000. Your comments may be sent to the same address.
The Lion says save America for your country, for yourself. Save America with Dreyfus 100% U.S. Treasury Money Market Fund. 100% U.S. Treasuries, the safest portfolio investment of all. What's that? Your money's dozing away in a bank money market account. Wake up to higher yields. Week after week since the fund began, Dreyfus 100% U.S. Treasury has returned more than the bank money market average. Even more if you pay state or local income tax on your bank account, because this unique Dreyfus fund is free of income tax in 49 states. Sorry, Tennessee. For today's yield, call 1-800-345-8500. And we'll send you information, a prospectus. Checking? Free checking. Invest in Dreyfus 100% U.S. Treasury Money Market Fund. Call 1-800-345-8500. Don't bank on it. Dreyfus on it.
On CNN tonight, the verdict and the aftermath. What's next? Both sides with Jesse Jackson. Then on Reliable Sources, did the news media mislead the public in the Rodney King case? All tonight on CNN.
Hello, everybody. I'm Molly McCoy. Time now for a look at the weather. Here's Walton Jones for that.
It was a combination of a lot of sunshine and a jet stream moving from Southern California into the central part of the nation that gave us 19 cities with a high temperature reading yesterday, all the way from Texas to Michigan. We'll see a little bit of a different change as a cold front now is moving through the central portion of the United States on into the Ohio Valley. The New England area will get a lot of clouds and also some snow, so definitely some cooler weather coming in behind this frontal system. Heavy thunderstorms in the Ohio Valley as that front continues to move to the east. The high temperatures look like this for the rest of the day. We'll see some cooler weather in over the northern tier, the Great Lakes and New England. The 70-degree reading will be from the Great Lakes back to the west, and then a large area of 80-degree temperature readings from the mid-Atlantic back to the southwest. The very warm weather will still be over the desert southwest. Let's take a look at the forecast now for these cities. It was a 98-degree temperature reading at Dodge City, Kansas yesterday, some 5 to 6 degrees above the regular high temperature reading that they've had for that day. CNN continues.
Top stories in Health Week are coming up when CNN Weekend continues.
For well over a century, the finest sewing machines have carried the name Singer, but it hasn't been a name you could carry until now. Now everyone can carry the Singer Handy Stitch.
Handy Stitch is the most convenient sewing machine I've ever used, and it's a genuine Singer.
Just thread it in seconds, and away you go. Handy Stitch is perfect for sewing seams. The durable chain stitch assures a clean, secure job every time. Hem come loose? Just reach for your Handy Stitch, and it's as good as new. Nothing could be easier. There's no bobbin to wind, fuss with, or lose.
Believe me, I'm no seamstress, but the Singer Handy Stitch is so simple, even my husband uses it.
This genuine Singer is so sturdy it can tackle tough jobs like this. Yet it's so simple and safe a child can use it. Make on-the-spot repairs without even removing the garment. Use it for beautiful decorative touches like this. straight stitches, curved stitches, anything's a snap with Handy Stitch. It comes with 5 mini spools of thread, plus this extension spindle, so you can use standard spools in any color you choose. Sew draperies while they're still hanging. Take it to the office, your college dormitory, or away on vacation.
I borrowed a Handy Stitch from someone in the dorm. It was so great that I bought one of my own. Now everyone borrows mine.
Join the thousands who have discovered Handy Stitch convenience, complete with battery pack, 5 mini spools of thread, and extra needle and convenient threaders. The Singer Handy Stitch. It's a genuine singer for the amazing low price of only $29.95. Here's how to order.
Call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 or send $29.95 plus $5.95 shipping and handling to Singer Handy Stitch, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia, 30306. For fastest delivery, use your credit card and call now 1-800-257-1257.
This is CNN.
Everybody, I'm Molly McCoy. Health Week is coming up. First, the hour's top stories. Wilbur Mills, the former Arkansas congressman who was toppled by a sex and alcohol scandal, is dead. Mills collapsed at his home today. He was rushed to a hospital, but efforts to revive him failed. There's no word yet on the cause of death. Wilbur Mills was first elected to Congress in 1939. He served nearly 40 years. For almost half of that time, he headed up the powerful House Ways and Means Committee. In the early 70s, Mills admitted to a problem with alcohol and drugs. He began treatment for alcoholism in 1974. Wilbur Mills, dead at the age of 82. Los Angeles is calm. Cleanup is underway, and the L.A. County court system is starting a huge task. Prosecutors have begun filing formal charges against thousands of people arrested in 3 days of violence. Very tight security is in effect in Los Angeles today. Thousands of forces have been assigned to patrol the streets. Police, sheriff's deputies, California Highway Patrol, and federal officers are working to keep this uneasy peace, and 4,000 federal troops are standing by if needed. The CNN's Anna McDermott has more on the scene in L.A. today.
It was quiet this Saturday morning. Oh, sure, there was still smoke, but very little fire, and most of the looters had gone away. All that was left was the mess.
I feel devastated, I feel mad, I feel angry, I feel ashamed.
But people joined together for the cleanup. People from rich neighborhoods together with the poor.
There's a grand canyon between the haves and the have-nots, and it's about time to start narrowing that.
Many agreed, though, that it might have been much worse if not for the thousands of police and National Guard troops who spent the night patrolling the curfew-cleared streets.
If we didn't have them, we would have lost a lot of homes.
But new difficulties seemed to loom. With so many stores and businesses closed, buying gasoline, even groceries, was not going to be easy. Some store owners wanted to reopen only when all the trouble was over. However, police officials weren't sure when that might be. But at least, they said, the situation had calmed down considerably since those days of rage first erupted. Ann McDermott, CNN, Los Angeles.
The rage over the Rodney King verdict has spread nationwide. Isolated instances of beatings, lootings, and arson have cropped up in towns from Seattle to Atlanta. In Seattle, one protester shouted at police, "It's payback time," as he and others roamed the downtown. Police arrested at least 43 people by late yesterday, most of them for property damage and failure to disperse. Police in Ames, Iowa say a disturbance involving college students had nothing to do with the situation in Los Angeles at first, but police admit some frustration between whites and blacks certainly came out. Officials had to use tear gas to control that crowd. 3 students and a teacher are dead following a bloody hostage standoff at a California high school. As distraught parents waited, police negotiators tried to talk the young gunman into surrendering. At one point, he released some of his 80 hostages in exchange for pizza. Officials at the Olivehurst, California school say the gunman had been a student 4 years ago. He failed a class and he did not graduate. They speculate he came back yesterday for revenge. 10 students were injured during that siege. After 8 hours, the gunman surrendered. Let's look at some top stories. Health Week is coming up when CNN Weekend continues.
The sounds of nature can be soothing, but not on your cellular telephone.
With Oki cellular phones, you hear clear, true voice quality. Buzz-free. No buzzes, hisses, or...